All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. We're learning a book from the first Rebbe of Chabad, first of seven Rebbes of Chabad. And the book is called Torah Or. And it's explaining, using a lot of ideas of Kabbalah, etc., but essentially the practical meaning of the sentences of the Torah as far as our serving God. Because the purpose that we're here in the world for is to do what's right. That's why we're here. We're here in the world to do what's right. And what happens if we do what's right? So the world becomes perfected. The physical world becomes perfected. How do we know what's right and what's wrong? Is the Torah. The Torah tells us what's right and wrong. There's one addition, though, is that in Judaism, it's not only important what you do, but also how you do it. And in order to do things in the proper way, is it has to be very clear why you're doing it. So, for instance, you do a commandment. A Jew does a commandment. He puts on tefillin. He keeps Shabbat. So it's important how, not just what he does, that he doesn't light fire on Shabbat and etc. He goes to synagogue, but it's also how he does it. Does he do it with enthusiasm? Does he do it with joy? Does he do it with love, with appreciation? In order to do that, you have to know why you're doing it. Why it has to be genuine. So that's what Chassidut comes to teach you. Chassidut, especially Chassidut Chabad, but Chassidut in general, that a person should be really genuine in his life. Should be genuine in his life. How can you be genuine in your life? So you have to know what all the elements are, what's involved over here. So it comes to teach you, especially what God is, and how God is not just another thing or just another option option that there is in the world. Even though that, of course, that's true. You know, God in the Bible, God spoke. God is one of the figures of the Bible, right? He acts, he reacts. But when you start to understand this, so a person could say, okay, so God is one of the figures of the Bible. So when he talks to me, then we'll start to take this seriously. But until then, it's just stories. So the Chassidut is trying to come and tell us that God is speaking to us, but he's also creating us. God is creating us, each and every one of us. That's in a way even better than speaking to us. God is creating us, and he's keeping us alive, and he's creating the whole world, and everything has a purpose, and everybody has a responsibility to that purpose. To that purpose, we're created for a reason. So Chassidut is trying to give us this why. Why should we do Torah? Why should we do the commandments? Why should we listen to what God says? Why should we do? And the answer is not to go to heaven. Exactly the opposite. The answer is to perfect here, earth. Perfect the earth. Okay. So that's basically the whole story of Noah. Noah was a person that, like everybody else, he was put in the world, and the world became a terrible place. The world became an awful, terrible place, and it was very, very threatening and very, very luring and very deceptive. The world was, and Noah defied all this. He defied all this, and God said, "Okay, Noah, you're doing what's right in the world, and I'm going to save you. I'm going to bring a big flood into the world, and everybody's going to die in the flood," which is basically what these people wanted anyway. But that's basically what they really wanted, was to live a life of death, a meaningless life that there's no purpose, there's no reason for tomorrow, and there's no reason for yesterday. Just row your boat gently down the stream. So God said, okay, I'll give them a stream, I'll give them a water. So God sent a flood, and he destroyed everyone. So the Rebbe says that's not right. That's not right. God did not send the flood to destroy everyone. That was not his purpose. The flood did destroy everyone, but the purpose of the flood was not to destroy everyone. The purpose of the flood was to purify the world. And everyone had become so defiled and so, how do you say, indelibly egotistical. Everybody had become so selfish that it permeated every fiber of their being, and so nobody could be saved. Nobody could be saved. What destroyed them? The flood. Now, in the writings of Kabbalah and other places, water is pleasure. Water is pleasure. So God just flooded them with, you want pleasure? I'll give you pleasure. So God just flooded them with this. Okay, now if you look at a lot of the religions in the world, this is like a really good thing for everybody, because everyone, they went to heaven. They all died and they went to heaven or wherever they went to, but at least everybody thought they were righteous and they were great. So you go to heaven, in this world, you only have temporary pleasures, but the world to come, it's even better. So God sent everybody to the world to come. Huh? So you go to heaven. That's like the goal of all the major religions in the world, is you go to heaven. So the flood was pretty good. I mean, it was a good thing. Everybody went to heaven. They went to heaven. They did this miserable world where there's just little tiny pleasures. So there you can get infinite pleasure. So the point of this story is telling us that going to heaven is not a good thing. Or it's not the best thing, let's put it that way. Going to heaven, the afterlife, is not the point of life. The point of life. So what's the point of life? That this world is potentially very good. Very good. And it's true, it's very misleading and very confusing and very frustrating, this world. But if the world is used properly, then the world is very, very good. What does it mean to be used properly? So the answer is that the world is a big flood and that we can rise above the flood. The world is a flood of disappointments and temptations and frustrations and the things that depress us and lure us and detour us, the world. So if we can understand what's really the point of the world, and to not get fooled by the bad, not to get angry at the world or depressed by the world or trapped by the world, the run after the pleasures of the world, etc. But we use everything in a proper way. And the things that make us mad, we know how to deal with them or to ignore them or whatever there has to do. I mean, each case has to be examined individually. But the world is like turbulent waters. And if you want to go through the world according to the Torah, then there's going to be a lot of challenges. And a lot of times you're going to have to flow upstream. And you're going to have to figure out a way sometimes to avoid the problems of the world in order to correct them, not to run away from them. And that's what Noah did. That's the whole story of Noah. That's what's relevant to us. You want to do what's right, then you're going to see that the world is a big flood and it's going to be very difficult. But that's the reason why we're here. That's the good in the world. The good of the world is that it elevates us. It makes us, forces us to make difficult choices, to contact aspects of our personality that are true, that are unchanging, that are positive, that are even happy, that we can make light in darkness. We can make sweet out of bitter. We can overcome. That's the history of the Jewish people. Right? The Jewish people were born in exile in Egypt. And the first temple was destroyed, second temple was destroyed. Terrible, terrible, terrible tragedies have occurred to the Jewish people throughout, from the time of Abraham. Like we say, the nations are trying to destroy us. The Romans, the pogroms that there were, the church, right, was perhaps the worst of all, right? The destructions they made and the inquisitions that they made and the hatred that they had, and we killed God, all this, and it's been constant. The Jewish people says, but it's good. What's good about it? It's good because it forces us to come to the truth. And true, a lot of Jews have left Judaism, and a lot of Jews have been disenchanted with Judaism, and they're right. They're right. I mean, they have every every justification to do so. The Holocaust, that should make a person say, who wants to be a Jew, right? But there were always Jews that said, one second, I'm not going to let the bad conquer me. Enough that the damage the bad has done in the world, it's not going to conquer my Judaism. I'm going to defy it. That's Noah. That's the lesson we can learn from Noah. Says the Rebbe, and when we do defy the world and transform the world and realize this point of truth, which is unchanging, which the world cannot, like we said, all the flood waters cannot extinguish the love, the intrinsic love that every Jew has for God, every Jew. When we feel this love a little bit, when we come to it, and almost every Jew that you see today that was in the Holocaust and that still is religious, he weathered the storm. Is when this happens, so it gives God pleasure. And because God is the creator, and God cares about every aspect of his creation, and God has a plan for the creation. So when the plan is carried out, namely when people are not negatively affected by the flood waters, by the problems of this world, is that gives God pleasure, says the Rebbe. But this is only a lower pleasure. One second. Let's get this here. There's another level of this Shabbat, this level of realization of the truth that comes from the darkness, that comes from the problems. There's another level that's called, in the Torah portion, it says Noach twice. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a holy person. So it says, Elu told us Noach is tzaddik time. This is two times Noach. So it says one time is pleasure we give to God, a lower type of pleasure. I'll call Zehu Shabbat Tatoa. This is the lower pleasure. Let's make this bigger. Here we go. 1 minute. What happened? Why is it? Oh, there it is. There it is. All right. Pointer. No. Calls all this is Shabbat Tatoa. This is a lower aspect of pleasure that God gets from our defying and transforming the turbulent waters of this world into truth. But there's another level of this Shabbat, of this level of truth and rest. Like Noah's ark floated above everyone. That's like Noah was on the level of Shabbat. And this is what's called the upper Shabbat. Oh, now we're going to get into Mashiach. All the time that the Jewish people have been suffering in this world, to date, it's about, 4,000 years since Abraham. They've been opposed, and they've been holding on to their Judaism, and they've been even succeeding where they are, and holding on to their Jewish identity, and still believing in God, despite, or even, like the Rebbe is saying, because of the difficulties of the world. They raise us up against all odds. That's called the lower Shabbat. That's called the lower pleasure that God gets. But then there's another level, which is called an upper pleasure. Shu Mashiach, that's what's going to be in the future. Shenikra, that's called Yom Shekul Shabbat. It's called the day which is totally Shabbat. Okay, when God created the world, there wasn't supposed to be any death. Man was supposed to live forever. And when man ate from the tree, he brought death into the world. Now let's just think for 1 second, what does that mean, that there wasn't going to be any more death? It wasn't supposed to be death. Death is an extra thing. It wasn't supposed to be an end to life. Life was supposed to be eternal. So the first comment that usually people make on that is, and that's pretty boring, I mean, after a couple thousand years, what do you want to do now? I don't know, let's take a walk. Well, we took all 4,000 walks. Well, let's take a trip. Come on, read a book. We did all that. Well, let's go swimming. Well, this I've done it already. Everything. How long do we got? How much more time do we have to live? No end, eternal, right? So isn't it going to be terribly boring? So the answer is that totally not. The happiest experience that a Jew can have was when they went to the Holy Temple. Jews went 3 times a year to the Holy Temple as Moedim L'Simcha. If you went away, you felt happy. What did you feel happy? You felt happy because you felt that God is creating me. I'm a miracle. The whole world is a big miracle. It's brand new all the time. Everything is brand new. We look at the world in a way that we can get bored because death was brought into the world. As soon as death was brought into the world, then what does it mean, death? Death is the opposite of life. It's the opposite of God. God is pure life. God is pure giving, pure love. When a person starts to get egotistical, so he doesn't feel this godliness, so he doesn't feel life, so life has an end to it. So therefore you get bored. You don't see the novelty of the world, and especially you don't see the novelty, the challenge of every instant. So when there's no death in the world, it means that every instant presents a new responsibility, a new opportunity, a new challenge, and even thoughts become tremendously important. So every single instant of your life is just an interrelationship with the Creator. Now it's interrelationship with nothing, with ourselves. That's boring. But in the future, it's going to be with the Creator, like it was when they went to the Holy Temple. You felt that there's a Creator. Now we can't even conceive what that means, that there's a Creator. What does that mean? God is creating me? What are you talking about? Right? But in the future, people will feel that it's the truth. This is God's world. The world is an amazing gift every instant. And that's going to be the future resting. That's going to be the future pleasure that God is going to give. It won't be so much fighting against the bad, but doing more and more good. That's what it says. God said, the Asher Nishbati, that I promised, Me'avor me Noach od ala oretz, that I'm never going to bring the waters of Noah again in the world. It's a sentence in in the prophets. I think it's Isaiah. Because behold, Av she'em bo, the Torah, even though that the waters of Noah came to refine the world, ach no b'kol zman, not all the time do you have to have this purification so much, right? Like for instance, when there was the Holy Temple, as things were different. Things were different. There wasn't such challenges and difficulties in the world. The people made their own problems. Because I said, God said, I promised that I'm never going to get mad at you or to punish you. God said, even though we explained before that by means of this turbulent waters of the world, it's a very good thing that we are forced to make an extra light in the world. Like we talked yesterday about like sports and challenges that people have. They overcome the challenges, and there's new sorts of new revelations and things in the world. We said that it brings a person to loving God with all of his being. Remember, that's what we said yesterday. That by means of the difficulties and the challenges of the world, it brings out our potential, this love, this hidden love inside of every Jew. And so the challenges of the world are good, says the Rebbe, but nevertheless, there's another level of love of God, which is higher than what we said, loving God with all of our being. This is love that comes from above. This is much higher. Even any type of love that comes by means of this turbulent waters that we said before. That's what it says, that God, your right hand embraces me. This type of love that we feel, like I say, you feel that every second is new, fresh, is a gift. You feel God's infinite love for us. And then this will be revealed in the future. That's Mashiach. Mashiach will reveal how precious this physical world will be. When Mashiach comes, no one will think about going to the world to come. No one will think about going to heaven. All these people that say the Messiah is going to bring everybody into heaven, it's a total, incredible falsehood. Because the purpose of the Mashiach is only to show how amazingly precious this physical world is and how precious our physical life is. But this type of love, how precious and amazing this world is only going to be revealed in the future. Like it says, Ki haharim yamushu, it says that the mountains will move, hagavos yamoto, and the hills, whatever, they'll be moved. In other words, mountains don't move around. You know, you don't see that, let's climb Mount Everest. Well, I thought Mount Everest was here today. Oh, didn't you hear? Mount Everest moved to Chicago. It moved. What are you talking about? Mountains don't move. He says, well, the fact is, you're right. Mountains don't move. He says, but before God says, before I leave the Jewish people, the mountains will move. In other words, mountains are immovable. He said, but mountains will move, and the high places, whatever, they'll become level. But my love for you will never move, said God. Never move. The biggest earthquake in the world cannot move the Mount Everest. You're not going to get Mount Everest to move. It's the same thing with the Jews. The biggest sins they could possibly do will never convince God to stop loving them. This love is going to be revealed in the days of the Mashiach. That's Brit Shalom Eloi Tamut. There's a sense in Isaiah. And my covenant of peace will never move. This is an upper love and a tremendous Hava Rabba Abba Milamayla. This is love that comes from above, from God. The God, your right arm embraces me. This is incredibly higher than anything we can possibly imagine. Okay, so what what does this got to do with us now? It'll happen, so let it happen. What does it mean to me? Okay, so first of all, you should know what the goal is. And also you should know why we are doing Torah and commandments, that eventually in this world will be revealed the tremendous love that God has for the whole world, for all of his creations. All of his creations. Okay, but what are we supposed to do now? So now the Rebbe is going to explain to us the importance of the commandments. Ready? So the next sentence in Song of Songs, next sentence in the Song of Songs was, it says, the first sentence said that turbulent waters cannot move the love, right? Turbulent waters cannot move the love that God has for us and the love that we have for God. That's this first level of love we're talking about that we get by withstanding the difficulties of this world. Then there's a higher type of a love, which that's a gift that God is going to give everybody. That's in the days of the Mashiach. Okay, that's what it means. And nowadays we have a little bit of a hint of this, of how high this physical world is, that it's infinitely greater than any spiritual levels we can possibly reveal, higher than heaven. Like I say, Mashiach is going to come, there's not going to be any more heaven. If Adam hadn't sinned from the tree, there would be no heaven. Nobody would die. It would be constant, how do you say, the bliss of responsibility in this world. Everyone would feel happy that they're alive, that they're different from everybody else, that everyone has a special obligation. Every second of life will be a celebration, of meaning and our obligation to the Creator. We're working with the Creator. This is amazing. We're being created. So now the hint of this now is the commandments. The commandments. The commandments are physical, which that hints at the highness of the physical world, and they're pure godliness, and we don't feel it at all. We'll see. That's what King Solomon says afterwards. What does it say? Turbulent waters cannot extinguish this love. And afterwards it says, if a person gives, if a man gives, call hon beito, all the riches of his house, be'ava, with love, buz yabuzulo. It's, how do you say, it's like rejected. It's like nothing. It's rejected, right? It's like you go into a, you want to buy the Empire State Building. Go to New York. I'd like to buy the Empire State Building. Who owns it? The government, the city of New York, whoever owns it. You come and say, oh, I would like to buy it, please. How much money have you got? I have just one second. It's my whole life savings. It's $135. What's it? I want to give my hat also. $135 and my hat. Let's see. What are you talking about? This is this is worthless. The building is worth millions, right? The same thing is if a person wants to give all the riches that he has of love for God, God will say, this is nothing. This is nothing. What could be more valuable than the love of God we had before? Talked about the love of God you can get only from this world by withstanding the tests of this world. You can come to this tremendous love. That's nothing. That's like $100. Okay, so it says, Hine Mavur, it's explained, Eich Shamayim Rabim, how it is that these turbulent waters, Shem Tirdas Parnasa, which they are the confusion of this world, of getting along in this world, according to the Torah, the Naharos and the swift rivers, Shema Machshavos, which we said before, those are the thoughts about the physical world, that they are like waters, that they bother us all the time. Vazli, Masha'inkin, which is not the case, water, they are concealed and they're standing. There's deep troubles, deep problems, and running problems. People confuse themselves. People are afraid. People are this. And we said all of this is not able to put out the love. That's what we finished learning. Exactly the opposite. We said it even increases the love of God even more. That's Bechol Meodecha. I mean, just in innuendo, I read a lot of books from Professor Viktor Frankl. Professor Viktor Frankl, the Rebbe, very strongly recommended. He said he's got the only proper philosophy of psychology, of what is man. What is man? He was a psychiatrist. Anyway, so he said he was in the Holocaust. He was 3 years in the Holocaust, a little more than 3 years. And he saw the worst possible things. His family was killed in it. And he came out and he said, if you ask me, Professor Viktor Frankl, he was not religious. He didn't come from, in fact, he was a bit of a religious man, but he made a clear point of not being religious in his writings. He doesn't want to be religious. And he said, I went through the Holocaust, and if you ask me, that more people became religious because of the Holocaust than left religion. Now, he was not necessarily, maybe I should change the word religious, believers in God. More people believed in God because of the Holocaust, that went through it, believed in God. He said, and what is it like? He said, what is it like? He said, it's like a flame. If you have a flame and there comes a wind, a storm to blow out the flame. So if it's a small flame, it gets blown out. But if it's a sort of a medium-sized flame, it could be that the storm, instead of extinguishing it, will just make it bigger. And it's the same thing over here. People went through the Holocaust. They saw how terrible the world is and how terrible man can be. So now you've got a choice. Either we can say, well, God is just helpless against these people, and there's no, just forget it. Just Hitler won, and that's it. Just killed all these Jews, and killed me too. Killed my soul, killed my this. There's other people that say, no, Hitler could kill bodies, but he can't kill souls. He can't kill my attitude, my connection to the truth. He can't kill that. He can't kill that. But on the other hand, I have 1,000 reasons to deny that God exists. A million reasons. But there's one reason that I can't deny it, because it's the truth. And after all, it's the truth. It's called the kol damama daka, the small silent voice. It's the truth. But who am I with the truth? The truth is for big, holy people. No. The truth is for everybody. When a person realizes that, then that suddenly he starts to realize that, listen, all these people are evil, but God is not evil. Why God let this happen, I don't know. I don't know why it happened. But that doesn't change my attitude toward God. And a lot of people became, because of that, believers in God. Okay, how they expressed it, I don't know if they did it according to the Torah of the commandments, but still they believe in a positive, superior power because of that. So that's what the Rebbe is saying here. The same thing with Judaism. That's the history of Judaism, right? History of Judaism. There's difficulties, and the difficulties just elevated us. Okay, so it says, that's what it says, if a person gives all of the riches of his house in Song of Songs. The riches of your house, that's the wisdom of the Torah. The wisdom of the Torah, the explanation, the secrets of the Torah, the mysteries of the Torah that are drawn from this. That's going to be, how do you say, that's like small change. That's like the $100 you want to give to buy the Empire State Building. All the wisdom of the Torah, all the tremendous ideas of the Torah. The rivers can't extinguish this. Like it says, Nar Yotzeh Eden, like it says, a river came out from Eden to water the Gan. The Gan, the garden. The garden is, the word for garden is 53. There's 53 chapters in the Torah, in the written Torah. Me'eden, that's the upper level of God's wisdom. There came the river, which waters the garden. What is the river? The garden, that's the 53 orders of the Torah, chapters of the Torah, that this is also the explanation of all the commandments, the deep reasons for all the commandments. And from this is made the garden. What's the garden? Heaven. The upper heaven, the lower heaven, until it finally comes down into this world, the wisdom of God, which is called the beginning of the creation, etc., the secrets of the creation, all that. It's all small change to God. Why? Zeu imiten ish, if a person gives, what's ish? Ish means the masculine aspect. Masculine aspect means a powerful revelation, but masculine aspect also means to be, how do you say, limited, concentrated, limited. Like it says, God is a man of war. Hashem ish milchama. That's what the Jews said when they went over the Red Sea, Yam Suf. That in order that God can draw down from his essence, in order to come down to the secrets of the Torah, to these deep Kabbalistic reasons, the wisdom, this is just a ray of godliness. It's called ish. It's just a very small, concentrated level of godliness. Liot kol echad ke'iyavshar liot. I'm sorry. The revelation of God in this world cannot possibly, unless there is what's called tzimtzumim. God has to contract his revelation, has to limit his revelation in the world, even in the Torah. V'zeu im yitein ish. If ish, this aspect of God, which is severity, that God conceals himself, call hon beso, all of the secrets of the Torah, which brings to this level we said of loving God with all of your being, which comes from the difficulties of the world, which is leshtaba begufa de malka, that all you want to do is just be included in the body of the King of God. You realize that this whole world is just a big fake out. The world is fake out, and then suddenly you realize, hey, but God is creating it, so it must be something really good, and you want to be connected to the reason for the creation. Like it says, Mili Shemayim, I don't want to be in heaven. I don't want to be with you. I don't want upper heaven. I don't want to go. All I want, because the heaven and the highest levels of the understanding of the Torah, this is just little rays of godliness. A Jew will say, I want to be connected to the King himself. This is God's essence and God's being. The ilazos, nevertheless, even though you have this tremendous love for God that you get from from succeeding in using, and you say you have the proper attitude toward the problems of this world, that it elevates you, and you come to this tremendous love of God that you just want to be included in God. You don't want to have any relationship to anything in the world in my way, only in God's way. And that's tremendous love of the Creator. What can be greater than that? Says the Rebbe, buzi buzulo, all this tremendous love and these revelations is like small change. She'enu alozib, the whole business is just like a ray of godliness. Why? But calls that all this is the explanation and the reasons for the commandments, which that's the wisdom of the Torah that's drawn from God's wisdom. But the body of the commandments themselves, the physical, actual body of the tefillin that you have, or the mezuzah you put on your door, or the tzitzit you put on your garment, or even the money that you give the charity, the actual coin, The actual deed, physical deed you do, like tefillin or a sukkah or charity, like it says, Maisa Tzedakah, all these similar things, the actual deed itself, this is not a ray of godliness. This is essence godliness. This is God's will above any understanding or reason. And it's drawn, this comes down into God's wisdom. So all of the wisdom of the Torah and the great secrets and the upper heavens and the great miracles and all this is all small change. This is only aspects of God. The essence of God is the physical commandments. The physical commandments. Now, of course, a normal person will say, oh, come on. I mean, this is what I've been reading this to get to this. This is the point. I wanted some sort of a big, flashes and big revelations and big, they say enlightenment, and then all of a sudden I realize things that nobody else realizes, and I see things that nobody else sees, and I understand things that no one understands, and I become a great high holy tzaddik. And this, you're telling me no, that the essence of God is what? Putting on boxes on my arm? I mean, any fool can do that. You can train a monkey to do that. What possible connection is that got to do with the essence of God? Says that's exactly the point. It's totally not in the area, the realm of understanding. God is nothing like what you think he is. God is infinitely, infinitely greater than even the spiritual worlds. And on the other hand, God cares about every little detail, even the little tefillin that you put on. And if you put on tefillin, you paid let's say, $2,000 for your tefillin, and there's one little letter over there that's broken or it's wrong, then the whole thing, that the tefillin are no good. You have to fix them. Sometimes you can't fix them. You have to buy new parchments and so on. And that's the essence of God. That's the essence of God, says the Rebbe. That's it. That shows you how far away you are from understanding what God is. That's the God of Israel. That's the God of Israel. He creates the whole world, does amazing miracles. And where is his big essence found? In the commandments, the physical commandments, not even the reason for the commandments. Well, because the source is so high, higher than the Torah even, therefore it's put into physical things low, because it can't be understood. The commandments themselves are too high to be understood. The essence of the commandment itself, like we said, like the rabbis say, Chakima Baramiza, a wise person understands a little hint. Shedavar amok me'od i'efshar legaloso be'dibur. There's a thing nowadays, maybe it's an old thing, body language. Oh, you read body language? Body language. They ask you what this person is supposed to be, wants to be president of the United States, and they ask him a question, what are you going to do with your relations to Africa? And the person goes, Africa, I love the Africans, but he goes a little like that, or a little something, moves his nose in a certain way, or he makes a motion with his hand, which that indicates that he can't stand Africa. Can't stand, right? But what he says is wonderful. Africa, I spend half a year in Africa just mingling with the people and how much I love them. But he made a little movement that shows that deep down he can't stand anybody that doesn't look like him and agree with them. It's okay. There's a little tiny movement, but only the most genius person in the world can catch this. You want to see this? Look, I want to show you something. Look at this person. See, when they asked him the question, he went like that. See, he went like that. Did you see that? So what? What do you don't understand. A person that really understands can understand. The same thing is with God. God wants us to connect to him. God is infinite. We can't understand him. So he made a little hint in the world, a little like this, the commandments. Now you can see what God really wants. That's the essence of, that's the God I'm serving. What do you mean? Little black boxes you put on your arm? So no, they're not just little black boxes. They have little parchments inside. And if one of the letters is wrong, then the whole thing is disqualified. That does not impress me at all. I mean, what type of, show me your God creates, see the sun, you know how big the sun is? Our God creates the sun. That's impressive. No. That's true. God creates the sun, but that's a small change. That's a small change. Oh, what about the Torah? The Torah is the wisdom, the deep Kabbalistic wisdom. That there was rabbis that could create human beings. It says they could create rabbi create a person. That's it. That's good. Sure, it's wonderful. That's not it. The essence of God is found where? In a mezuzah. What's there? I don't say, does it glow? It does something? No. That's godliness. That's the God of the Jews. Higher than the biggest miracles, higher than anything else. Because it's like a little hint that a wise man can understand the depth of it. Similarly, also the commandments, the physical commandments, because their source is so high, and they are the inner will of God, so to speak, they're above any understanding. And therefore, it's impossible that they can become revealed only by means of physical things in the physical world to show us how incredibly important the physical world is to God. That's what it says. I personally, God, command you. Because the whole Shema Yisrael, that's the motto of Judaism, understand. Shema means understand. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, listen, Jews. Understand. Shema means understand. Shema, understand, Jews. God is our God. This is just talking about thinking, contemplating in the aspects of God, the names of God. And by means of this, you can come to love God. Right? After we say Shema Yisrael, we say we'll love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your being. Until you get to this level, like it says, loving God with all of your being. 1 second, next page. What happened? What happened? Hey, what happened to my page? Oh, computer is slow. What happened to what? All right, there. Next page. There it is. And this is loving, even though you come to the level of loving God with all of your being, which is that's the person just wants to be included in the essence of God. This is only, but it's only really possible to do this, to get a little glimpse of this upper love that God gives us by the commandments. Davka, she'aim, that they are panemius ratzono, God's inner will, no tzofim techila, so it is inserted the beginning and the end. That's what it means, anochi, anochi, God's essence. Anochi misha anochi, God's essence gave us the commandments. 1 minute, let's do this here. And not just the level of a ray of godliness or a shekhinah of godliness or an aspect of godliness. This is by doing the actual physical commandments. And that's what it means that I command you today. Today, specifically, when the soul is in the body, not after or before the soul comes into the body, which is not the case before the soul comes into the body. Then it was just getting pleasure from the ray of God. The same thing after a person dies. He gets pleasure from the rays of God. That's why it says that it's better one moment of doing a good deed in this world is higher than all of the worlds to come, all of the future levels, even the raising of the dead. We don't know what we're doing, how important every second, instant of life is. We can't appreciate it. It's impossible to appreciate, but it's infinite, infinite reality. That's even the commandment of moving your lips when you speak the Torah. Dibar tabam, when you move your lips when you speak the Torah, that in a way is higher than the actual learning, understanding. You're doing a command, one with your brain, and the other one was you're doing understanding. Here you're doing with your physical lips, you're moving them. That's what it means. Achot lanu katana shenasa b'chinas achva, that you become unified. Is achat shemit acheret. You become unified totally with the oneness of God, doing the commandments. And that's what it says, God's right arm embraces me. These are all sentences from the Song of Songs, that God is like a person who hugs himself from all sides, so God is also embracing you when he does the commandments. So like I'm saying, I've said this many times before, but every day since the war started, so I go to a public place and I ask people to put on tefillin. And people put on, and a lot of people, yesterday especially, was something special. I asked the person, I've said this before, and I'll say it again, that I have certain senses that, I've been putting on tefillin on people for like 40 years. So I have premonitions. I can look at a person, I can tell if he's going to put on tefillin or not. I can I can see if a person is going to put on tefillin or not. I know, I have senses. I know 98% of the time I'm not right. I have feelings. I have feelings, but I'm not. They're not correct. So I learned to ignore my feelings, and I just go up to people that I'm sure they're not going to put on tefillin. I said, "Would you like to put on tefillin?" And and the worst thing you get is the person says, "Get away from me," that's like maybe one in every 500 people say that. Others say, in any case, I asked the person, I was positive this guy was not going to put on tefillin. He was even talking on the phone, which usually, that's a good excuse the person can say, like, I said, would you like to put on tefillin? He said, oh yeah. He said, just 1 minute. I want to put on tefillin. So he closed the thing. Said, okay. He said, but I don't know how. I said, I don't know how. So I said, okay. I just flowed with it because this is not the first time. And I put the tefillin, and the guy really didn't know how. He didn't know how. And he knew. I said, are you Jewish? Sure, I'm Jewish. Sure, Jewish. My mother's Jewish, father's Jewish. Everything. And when I finished, he said, oh, I really want to thank you. Thank you very much. He gave me a big handshake. He wanted to give me money. I said, listen, I'm not here to receive. I'm here to give. I'm here to give. I'm not here to receive. He says, oh, that's good because I don't have any money with me now. But thank you very much. It was just tremendously appreciative. He was a well-dressed fellow. The point I'm trying to make is that the physical commandments contain in them something that's so real that it affects every aspect of our whole being, our whole personality. So these little two boxes, I'm offering this guy to do a religious act, and the guy's not religious, and suddenly we were best friends. He doesn't know who I am, has no idea what I am. We're best friends. He shook my hand like I just saved his son from drowning or something. Who knows what? So we can see that in the commandments, there's something essential about what is God, what is the Jewish people, what is this world for? And that's what the Rebbe is trying to say. That's the turbulent waters of this world have a big benefit to us, even though it's better that they shouldn't be. And the Rebbe says, and when there will be a time that there won't be, then we'll really feel the true love of the Creator. And now we can get a little glimpse of it through the commandments. Okay, now let us do the... One second.